Here we are again in Mr. Krupe's home here, and we're looking at exponent laws. There are 6 of them in the grade 9 class, pardon me, and this lesson follows a lesson on powers. So here are the 6 laws. I'll just quickly go through them, written in algebraic form. So if we have 2 powers, the first law says if you have 2 powers with the same base and they each have an exponent, to simplify it, the answer is keep the base the same and you add the 2 exponents, m plus n. If you have 2 powers and you're dividing them, you keep the base, you subtract the exponents. If you have a power and it's raised to another exponent, so in other words, the power of a power, you keep the base, you multiply the exponents. If you have 2 numbers being multiplied and that product is raised to an exponent m, what happens is essentially the m attaches to both of these bases. So you get a to the m times b to the m. If you have a quotient, or in other words, a divided by b, or a fraction a over b, raised to an exponent m, the exponent will attach to each of these, the numerator and the denominator, top and bottom number. So you get a to the m over b to the m, or divide b to the m. And finally, the last law, simplest to remember, a number to the power of 0 is equal to 1, where a cannot be 0. That's the other thing we'll show you later, where this base cannot be 0. It can be any other number, and the answer is always 1. Okay, so very quickly, let's look at the very first law, which is the one we showed you was this one, a to the m times a to the n equals a to the m plus n. So keep the base, add the exponents. Keep the 4 as a base, and you will add the 6 and 4, so it's 4 to the power of 10. How simple is that? Keep the base, add the exponents. Now when this one's negative and this one's negative, so you keep the base and you add -5 to -7, you get -12. When you are adding a negative exponent to a positive exponent, so we have keep the base, -12 added to a positive 4 is -8. And lastly, if you have a positive added to a negative, keep the base, because it's multiplying, and you add the exponents, so this would be 3. And that there is the first law. Pretty straightforward. Next law is a to the m divided by a to the n equals am minus n. So you keep the base, subtract the exponents. So keep the 7, and 12 subtract 3 is 9. Okay. 5 to the power of 8, divide 5 to the 10, keep the 5. 8 subtract 10, this is a -2, because 8 subtract 10 will give you a negative answer. Now, this is where students get a little bit confused and start making mistakes. So 2 powers, same base, you keep the base, and you subtract. -7 subtract -4. So a -7, I'll write that here, -7 subtract a -4. Remember that subtracting a negative really means that you're adding a positive, double negative here. So it's -7, add a positive 4. -7, add a positive 4. So -7 add a positive 4, this is -3. That is the answer that we want. Got to be careful on those kind. And this one here, same thing. So we keep the base, 2. Now it's 9 subtract -5. 9 subtract -5 is the same as saying 9 add a positive 5. So essentially we have 2 to the power of 9 add positive 5 is 2 to the 14. And finally, we have this one here, keep the base, subtract the exponents. We have -14, subtract a positive 5. So a -14, subtract positive 5. We learned that subtracting really means the adding of the opposite. So again, just like we did here, we added the opposite, adding a positive. Here we add the negative. So this is the same as -14, adding a -5. In other words, these signs basically switch. So you add the negative. So -14 add -5 is -19, and that's the answer. And that's the second law. Pretty straightforward. This is the one right here, especially when you get to the negatives, that gives students a lot of difficulty. All right. Next law, very simple. Keep the base. Whenever you see the power of a power, you keep the base, you multiply the two exponents. So in this case, keep the base 7 and you multiply those two, 7 to the 20. This one here, we have 2 and we keep that and we multiply this and this, so we get positive 18 or just 18. A negative multiplied by negative is positive. Here we have a negative exponent and a positive exponent here, so we keep that and we multiply those two. So keep that, and negative 2 times 8 is negative 16, because a negative times a positive is always negative. And here finally we keep the 8, and here's a negative times a positive, so we know it's going to be negative, and 7 times 6 is 42. And that's how to do this law right here. Pretty simple. All right. This is the next law. It was a times b to the m is equal to a to the m, b to the m. This is where this exponent attaches to both of these numbers, right? A to the m, b to the m. So in this case, the 6 will attach to the 2 and the 8. So it's 2 to the 6 times 8 to the 6. This one here, we attach this to each one of these. So 5 to the negative 3 times 7 to the negative 3. That is super easy. One thing to watch on these last two examples is because this is a negative number and this will attach to this and also this, we have to make sure that we put parentheses or brackets around this number. Negative 6 to the power of 9 times, we don't need parentheses or brackets on the 4 because it's positive. But because we want this base to be negative, we must surround it with that. Here, same thing, surround that negative to that. Each number inside, this was 5 to the negative 3 times, must surround the negative 2 and to the power of negative 3. And that is law 4. Law 5. A to the m, a over b to the power of m, where again the exponent attaches to the numerator and the denominator. So 8 will attach to the 4 and also the 5. 4 over 8, divide 5 over 8, and that is simplified. Here, again, careful that this is negative 6. We have to attach this to that. This has to be in parentheses, then attach it, divide this, attaches to that, like so. And finally, this attaches 3 over the power of 2, and then this will attach to this. This is negative, so we have to surround it in brackets and then attach it. And that is the 5th law. Pretty straightforward. Final law, the very simplest one, where any number to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. So 8 to the 0 is 1. Negative 5 base to the power of 0 is 1. We have to be careful on this one. This is negative of 17 to the power of 0. It's not negative 17. This is the power with a negative attached to it. So this is 0, but this is negative. So negative 1 is the answer here. Okay. And finally, just threw this in, a huge number to the power of 0. It doesn't matter. The answer is still 1. Now again, remember the note. If you have, the only number you can have as a base is 0. 0 to the power of 0 is not 1. This is actually 0. You cannot. That's the only one that doesn't follow the rule. And that, grade 9s, are the 6 laws revised and revisited. So I hope that you learned something from my little lesson here.